Thank you, Sukho, and thank you for listening to my first talk. If it is possible, and I asked Sukho for the permission, if it's possible that the host, I do not know if it's Kwang Tu-wan or Kwang Tri-Tim, would give me the chance to share the screen, because what I'm going to do is that I also show you a painting I did about this story that I will tell you, and then you can follow the scenes also on this painting, if this is allowed. I don't know if this is possible.
Are you able to? You can
Yeah,
try.
I try. A moment. Can you see it?
Um, it's blank, but oh yeah, now we can.
Okay. Um, yeah. And again, before I hold my talk, for those who maybe don't know me as well as others, I am not the Buddhist-like calm sitting person in meditation posture perfectly. I am the moving one, running around like Sister Act Whoopi Goldberg, talking with my hands, being excited, fighting with my light sword like a Star Wars Jedi, or sometimes angrily like Darth Vader, maybe. So listen to the story now about Asanga and the dog. This story of the Indo-Tibetan Buddhist master Asanga, I learned decades ago in the beginning of the 90s of the last century by the late Geshe Thupten Ngawang, with whom I studied the 7-year systematic studies of Buddhism at the Tibetan Center in Hamburg, North Germany. 100 students at the beginning, and I was one of 10 who survived or made the exams after 7 years. Geshe-la, once in these studies, told the story about Asanga. Asanga was born as a prince, and it was tradition that children or boys took over the work of their fathers. But his mother told him that he should spread the Mahayana teachings. And Asanga followed his mother and became a monk. That is special because the tradition is to follow the fathers. Especially, Asanga wanted to understand by his own experience the hidden meaning of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which we recite on the Sunday ceremony like we did before. Once he got an initiation like it is tradition or Tibetan tradition, and the flower which was thrown into a mandala lying on the table, fell in the direction of Buddha Maitreya, who is the future Buddha, the Buddha of loving kindness. This meant that he has a special relation to this future Buddha Maitreya. And Maitreya is in Tibetan Jampa, loving kindness, which is one of my names. Asanga decided to meditate intensively about Buddha Maitreya, to once learn about this hidden meaning of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, and surely from Buddha Maitreya directly, chatting with him, we would say nowadays. Therefore, he went on a mountain and meditated there in a cave. And this is a thing that is, tradition in, or always has been tradition in Tibet, to go into a cave and then meditate. Well, he meditated really hard, and after 3 years, he felt that nothing has changed, and he wouldn't have made no progress at all. And so he lost his courage and left the cave. But outside the cave, there was a nest in the rocks. Each time when the birds flew in the nest or out of the nest, the wings touched the rock, and he saw that through this calm rubbing of the soft wings, the rock had become polished. So he thought, if this is possible, maybe I don't have enough endurance. Sahanā. So, okay, I will meditate again. And he went again into his cave, and probably very German-like, I have to make it. I must meditate with all my strength, with all my power, like Darth Vader. I must. Well, I don't know if you are familiar with Star Wars, but this figure, Darth Vader, he's on the dark side, and he is full of fear not to get the goal, and he's fighting with anger, and so he is in suffering. And this whole grasping and angry, being angry to get the awakening, to speak from Asanga, that made Asanga again fail. He didn't get it again. So again, after 3 years, surely nothing had happened. He felt that he still was at the beginning, and again gave up and left the cave. Now he saw that there were water drops dropping from a rock and having made over the years a big hole in the rock beneath. If even those tiny, small, soft water drops can make such a hole in a rock, which is unbelievable, well, I must have more endurance to reach my goal, and I must carry on. And again, he went back into the cave and meditated. Well, when he left the cave again, frustrated after, meanwhile, 9 years, well, really endurance, but 9 years, he saw an old man who created needles from iron with a piece of cotton wool by polishing only this iron piece. Asanga shook his head. That's not possible. But he asked the man, how do you do this? And this old man said, well, if you have enough endurance and determination, nothing is impossible. Oh my. Again, Asanga went back into the cave and meditated. It must work. It's so German. I'm so sorry, but I know so many Germans and I'm often like this way. It must work. Hic et nunc, here and now. It has to work. And then it doesn't. When he, after 12 years, realized that still nothing had changed at all, he was totally fed up. He was so done. Meditating so hard, 150% with all the strength over 12 years. So desperate. When he went out of the cave, totally frustrated, he now saw a dog. And you know, I think, yeah, those who are here, you know, I have a dog, a Great Dane, 11 months old. And it's not the first dog. I always have dogs and I can't live without them. So a dog is always a good sign for me. The dog, unhappily, was deeply suffering, having big pain. And the maggots in their belly already ate up this dog. And I'm sorry. I was during my field work in Asia, and I also have been a Meiji in Thailand, and especially in Thailand, also in India, but especially in Thailand, I saw those dogs who were suffering and were eaten up by maggots in the middle of the traffic. Nobody cared, and I felt so desperate because I wanted to save them all, and I can't, I couldn't, yeah. I'm sorry for my voice breaking and yeah, my tears. Out of compassion and loving kindness, Asanga wanted to save and heal this dog. But at the same time, he had also loving kindness for the maggots, knowing when I liberate the dog from the maggots, they will die out of hunger. They can't live without meat or flesh. But if I don't do it, the dog will die. That's a helpless situation. So he went in the village nearby, borrowed a knife, and then cut a piece of flesh out of his body so that the maggots would have something to eat when he would liberate the dog from them. But he realized that when he would fetch the maggots with his fingers, they would be probably crushed. So Asanga decided to put the maggots out of the dog with his tongue to not hurt them. He had to close his eyes because it was so terribly devastating to look at the suffering dog who was almost dying. and the maggots and this horrible smell. Difficult to stand that. And yes, this story always has accompanied me every time when I see a suffering dog. Asanga tried and tried with closed eyes and with the tongue. But he couldn't reach the maggots. He couldn't find them with the closed eyes. And he thought desperately, even here I fail. I can't do anything. Then he opened his eyes. And in this very moment, instead of the dog and the maggots, Buddha Maitreya sat before him. And instead of being happy and relieved that finally he made it and he could visualize Buddha Maitreya and talk with them directly, Asanga became angry. Hey, I have been meditating 12 years, totally exhausted with all my force, but nothing happened at all. And you let me alone. All these difficulties, suffering, and unbelievable efforts I undertook, but you were not there, never ever. But Buddha Maitreya smiled with loving kindness, like in the way of the Bodhisattva in the Sunday service, you know, those who say bad things and who mock. Well, Maitreya said, I always have been there at your side, but you didn't realize me with all the efforts you undertook, grasping for your goal. But now, when you let go and out of loving kindness, you wanted to save the dog and the maggots, you were in the moment. You didn't want to achieve something. You just did what had to be done in this moment. Asanga couldn't believe what Maitreya said. So Maitreya said, okay, take me on your shoulders and carry me to the village nearby. Let's see who realizes whom you carry. And Asanga did so. And he called full of joy, hey, look, Maitreya has come. But the people in the village only shook their heads about this weird old mad man who must have become crazy in the cave, carrying a dog who was almost dying and full of maggots. Only an old kind woman could see the feet of Buddha Maitreya and wondered. As I said, this story always has accompanied me because I am a person who fights for a goal, for my queer siblings around the world, doing all the events I prepare, the conferences, the peer groups, being there. And today, by the way, really being in grief because yesterday in the capital city of Germany, the Pride March was in danger. A car came and, this car drove into the Pride March, and 16 or 17 people were injured heavily and one already died. So I fight for my queer siblings because this hate and these threats are increasing. So fighting for a goal that resonates with me. And I also fight when I'm dead named or, yeah, also threatened and beaten what I already had to experience. And I fight with all my force, and I fight against things and for goals, and often don't achieve them by this grasping. But meanwhile, I'm lucky that I am studying now since January with Suko and my siblings here. Things seem slowly to change a little bit. I learn that living really in the moment and doing this, what is necessary now, that's what I can do. I can work in my little surrounding. I can't save the whole multiverse, what I would like to do, but I have to let go all this grasping and wanting like Asanga. Working or meditating with what is and doing what I can, but not grasping for things that don't make sense. And here, well, loving kindness or Jampa through endurance or Sahanā has really become my path. And I will walk this path. Yeah. And as Sukha says, I leave you here with that. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.